Hey everyone, this is the Lego City Ski Resort set, and yes, all of this stuff here comes in one single set, in one single box. It's a lot to look at, so let me first give you a fairly quick overview of everything the set has to offer. Then I'll come back later and look at some of the finer details and definitely give you my personal thoughts. So many minifigures, 11 of them in total. These are some of the Slope Rescue crew members here, with the torsos on the left being identical, but the one on the right is different. All three of these faces are different. I will take those helmets off so as you can see under there a little bit better. You're not able to raise the visors, but there are the prints on the backs of those torsos, and this will also let you get to see the rest of the faces. On the left here is the helicopter pilot for search and rescue, as well as just general scouting out of the park. And the German Shepherd dog could actually be another crew member there, helping to look for people who may have gotten trapped under an avalanche or something. Or it could just be a dog that came with one of the park patrons, who's visiting the place. So here are some normal people who could be those visitors. I really like the torso prints for all three of them. And I appreciate the kind of dull tones, not using colors that are too bright, but they're not too boring either. And I like the two different uses of the orange scarf piece that was introduced with Jay from the Lego Ninjago movie. There are no alternate faces to see on these, so let's move on. Here are a couple of kids, one boy, one girl. Got the short legs on these, the all the way short ones, not the ones that are medium sized and able to articulate to let them walk. But I think the gray color on the left is not the most common, and also the lavender on the right is not too common. Just different colors here in general to what we typically see in traditional Lego sets, and I appreciate that. Here's a snowboarder with some definition to his chin. That's something you don't see too frequently from Lego. I think it looks pretty good. His snowboard is the kind of school bus yellow color. It's the flame orangish yellow or yellowish orange color, and also has a couple of stickers on the top of it. And lastly, here's a skier with a pair of medium azure colored skis. Got a couple of dark gray ski poles, and notice the helmet is dual molded with the hair built into it. There's also a little bit of texture on the top to represent some air vents, and with this type of helmet you can raise up the visor, which is good to see. And with this one, for a change compared to the others, there is an alternate face. So this is a skier who's about to take a fall, or perhaps who already just took one. The biggest thing in the set is this ski patrol building, which Lego refers to as a rescue base. It's fully a 2-floor building, and outside, down at the first floor, there's just a little bit of detailing on the outside physically, but they use some stickers to show you the sign, for what the building is, what the weather conditions are, and also the statuses of the slopes that are currently available. Have some tools outside, some things that you can pick up and use with the minifigures. And then up above, there's a dual satellite dish setup on an antenna stock, and out front, there's also a small balcony where you can put maybe 2 figures side by side. Inside or around back, the first floor is basically a first aid kind of medical clinic. So they've got an examination table over on the left, a syringe, a light up above, and over here you have the admission and or attendance computer desk. No chair, unfortunately, to sit at. They have the all-important coffee mug, and the weird thing that's on the table there, that white thing on the black stand, is a cast. So you can put that on the arm of a figure if somebody breaks their arm. There's not a lot upstairs, with what looks like potentially a dispatcher's desk, but again with no seat to sit at. And then over on the other side are just some tools for the rescue personnel to use, with the walkie-talkie, pair of binoculars, and a pair of ice picks or axes. The other building is a small shop, which looks like it would be right at home in a small to medium-sized ski destination town. They've got a TV up top, which is definitely going to bring in a lot of attention. Just a huge thing. You can actually angle that down a little bit if you want the minifigures on the ground to be able to see it a little bit more easily. This is set up pretty nicely from the outside. They even have a display with a couple of snowboards there. These have the same brand name on them, but different designs. And also, that is a real snowboard, so you could potentially use that if you want. Just pull it off and stick a minifigure on it. Inside in the window display is yet another board with different branding this time. You get a couple pieces of headgear, we'll see those around the back as well, and a pair of snowshoes. Looking around the back, interestingly, there's not a whole lot more to see. They have 2 pairs of skis for sale, but they're that same medium azure color again. So in this set, you get 3 pairs in the same color. That's a little bit of a missed opportunity, I think, for some additional variation. There's a better look at the detail on that nice piece of headgear there, and this is where you check out. It's just a computer. Where's the credit card scanner? But yeah, there's also this signboard to put out in front of the store, and interestingly, even though it's just this tiny little thing, it actually shows you most of the stock that is carried at that store. And here's what they give us for a snow park. So basically, it's a pretty generous sized half pipe, including a pass-through in the center. You could see that as a finish line of sorts, so you can come through here, and it's smooth enough that figures can actually go over this stuff and not get caught up. So, it's not going to be particularly frustrating to play with that. You have a small set of stairs over here on the side. Just, it's the thought that counts there, I think. I think that's a good inclusion. And then just a rail for people to be able to, grind down. And again, smooth enough to actually play with. And then here's one more structure build, just a small booth where you can go buy some hot cocoa. And it looks like a couple of cupcakes as well. One of them is white topped. The other one is light aqua, which I'm assuming represents a minty flavor. This is really small, but I think it's more than good enough for what it's trying to do. A little bit of terrain there to be able to put a very small pine tree on it, and this just has room around the back for an employee to stand back there. And they should have included a ladle to get the hot cocoa out of this almost cauldron looking thing. This ski patrol truck is in the style of an older generation of short wheelbase SUV, pickup based covered top thing, and I think it looks pretty good. It has doors that you can open. It has a snowplow on the front, which you can angle from side to side, and you can also bring it up, or you can just remove that entirely if you want to. And oops, I'm supposed to pull it out from the ball joint there, but I think that this is a very effective little design that they put together and leaves you with a pretty respectable looking truck behind as well. Just has that little adapter on the front. The doors on both sides are able to open. There's only one single seat inside of it though. To get to that, just pull off the roof, and there's a steering wheel, also a small console in the front, which is a printed piece that they've had around for quite some time, which looks pretty good. And I was mistaken about the number of medium azure skis in this set. Here's yet another pair to use there in the exact same color. The shovel is in a silver color here, and there's also a pair of ski poles over here and a tool box in the back. Here's a snowmobile, a snow machine with a trailer. This has enough room on it to have 2 people, or twice as many people as the whole SUV. That they can just sit back to back, and technically you can actually put a third person back here if you want to. The trailer is able to carry along a stretcher, so you can do some rescues on the ground from here, and that can just be pulled up, and then you can put that onto the surface, the table surface, back in the clinic or in the HQ. And you've got a clip over here with another walkie-talkie, a couple more clips on the back where you can put some additional accessories, such as maybe ski poles or something else from the base. Another silver shovel over on this side, and this whole thing is able to go from side to side, and you can take it over bumps and everything, and kind of looks like it's able to handle the terrain with the skis being able to, or the skids being able to go up and down. Just a single sticker used there on the front, and it's pretty realistic. I think it's realistic enough looking. And here's one more way to save people. It's a helicopter, and it uses that same helicopter canopy that Lego almost always uses for relatively small choppers. And the design is built up to look a little bit kind of capsule-like, a little bit round. These clips on the sides are actually set up to hold on to a stretcher, so you can just clip that on like that with a patient if you need to pick up somebody in the field. They also have a camera over here which can be angled up and down for searching for folks as you're going around. And that's pretty much it for this. The inside is very simple with just a single flight control stick, and you can rotate both of the rotor sets. And here's a pretty simple, but I think pretty effective basic built-up design for a snowman. Technically, the minifigure head that's used there in just plain white is not all the way on the stud. It's not able to go all the way down, so it can kind of fall off easily, which is a little bit realistic in a way. If you think they're not supposed to do things like that in official sets, but I think it's completely forgivable because this looks pretty good. And it doesn't really need to be that durable. When all said and done, these are the pieces that are left over, the spares. Hit pause if you need to. Whew. Okay, now I can actually slow down, catch my breath, and relax a little bit. That's a lot of stuff in one set. You know, it's a pretty big box, but they do pack it full of plastic. And once everything gets assembled together, you know, it doesn't all go into these tiny, tiny little builds. You know, this is a nice spread of things. Over 800 pieces. They're asking $90 suggested retail price. I think that's not too bad for the amount of stuff that you get here. Forget about the price to part ratio, just the amount of stuff that you get here and how usable it is for play and display. You know, I think everything looks pretty nice and will play pretty well the way that these things are designed. However, I personally do have at least one major issue with this set, with the selection of things, the choice of things that they included here. See, I think a ski resort is a very good topic for a playset, but look at this line right here and look at what's on either side. This is all emergency related stuff over here. This is all for rescuing these people over here, these patrons, these visitors, for, you know, when they get into trouble, when they get injured and stuff. This is set up to carry a stretcher to take people back to the clinic. This is set up to carry a stretcher to take people back to the clinic. This is set up to do rescue, to look for people, to also keep the roads clean and perhaps to do a little bit of slope maintenance, although it's not quite the right type of vehicle for that, but you know, you can use it for that. Use your imagination a little bit. But ultimately, all this stuff over here is all official stuff. It's almost like municipal stuff. It's emergency services. It's like, you know, hospital, police, and fire kind of stuff over here. And then this is the actual, what I consider to be resort stuff over here. It's the visitors and the destinations, the things that people are actually going to see and to interact with at the place. I wish that the distribution between these two was significantly different. I would like to see maybe just this here with a couple of the figures for the sake of rescue. That would have been enough. Maybe have about that much space for a clinic, but have it in a building that also has some other stuff. So take that, attach it over to the side of the shop, and then put a second floor up above that with additional shops, maybe a nice restaurant or something. And then take this entire building and turn it into a lodge. You know, let it be at least a place that people can rent to actually stay there. Put, you know, a bed or two in there, maybe a little kitchenette, maybe a little fireplace or something. You know, that would have been nice. Could have expanded on the snow park, although this is nice and it's more generous than I think they've stuff that they've put like this in other sets for quite some time. So I really can't complain too much about this, but I wouldn't have minded a little bit more. This is great. The shop is great. I wouldn't have minded another shop, another little thing like this. Maybe a little skating rink kind of area would have been nice. You know, just more stuff for people to do for the sake of fun. A little bit less stuff to deal with all the injuries that could potentially come about. I don't feel like kids tend to imagine that many injuries in their general play to warrant all this for just this number of people. That's my main complaint about this. I don't think that any individual thing here is done poorly at all. I could, you know, get in and nitpick about some specific things, like especially right here. This, oh yeah, I forgot to show you this. The little slope map over on the side, and that's a printed piece that they first introduced with a minifigure pack. Was it earlier this year or last year? I think it was last year. But up here, the second floor just isn't a good use of space because they have these open areas, which in and of themselves are nice. And I think if this had been set up like a a modern log cabin, then it would have worked out okay. But as it is, it's just completely wasted space for, they could have had enough room to maybe put a chair in there for this desk, maybe another little table off to the side, or, just more stuff could have been put up here with this amount of space. But that's not that big of a deal overall. I don't feel like this is a bad building. I definitely don't think the shop is a bad building, even though there's not much inside of it. I don't think even the helicopter is bad. I don't think this set needed a helicopter. Lego is always putting helicopters in everything, especially in the city theme and the city sub-themes within it. This is not a bad looking helicopter, even though it's using that same canopy that they keep using over and over again. It has a little bit of different flair, different style to it. I like the kind of bubbly shape to it, kind of rounded. So even this, which typically would be the weakest thing to me, is not bad. I think the snow machine is one of the better things here because there's so much that you can do with it. You can put 2 to 3 figures on it. You can put potentially 2 figures here on the back. You can carry the stretcher if you want. It has clips for accessories, extra clips for even more accessories. I think this is one of the best things in this whole set for the amount of pieces that it actually uses. This is not bad at all. It looks actually quite good. Again, not the best use of space, but at least there is kind of a bed area back here where you can put more things. You can pop this off. You can put more things in there. There's actually hollow space under there. It could have been better used, but as it is, yeah, this is fine. And it definitely looks nice. It looks very complete. Oh, there's a little thing underneath there. It looks very complete. Looks like a pretty mature design, and this works really well. I like the use of the snowplow there, so you don't need an entire separate vehicle just to do plowing, and this works great. You can angle it all around. Looks realistic enough, and you can take it off if you don't want it. Worst case scenario, you can leave that piece out if that bugs you right there. So a lot of things here are done really, really nicely. I just wish that there was less emphasis on injuries, and rescues and emergencies. More emphasis on fun and a nice time at the ski resort, name of the set, for the figures that are included. If you want to see how all of this went together, you can watch my real-time pure build or the speed build version of the same. I will link to those at the end of the video and the end screen. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment if you'd like to, and I'll talk to you again soon.